Have you ever checked into a hotel, gone to your room and thought, what weird things have happened in here? Well, someone's posted exactly that on Quora. What's the weirdest thing that you found in a hotel room? Well, let's get into it. So Charlotte here says, a girl that my daughter worked with last year had been transferred to a hotel and restaurant where she worked part-time as a housekeeper. Young lass A was only 18 years old and requested a transfer after an incident that I'm still shocked happened. She was doing her normal work and servicing rooms after guest checkout times, ready for the next lot to check in later that day. One room hadn't checked out on the list A was working from, so she queried it with her supervisor, who said the keys to the room didn't appear to have been handed in, but they tried ringing the room and got no reply. For some reason, this was enough to satisfy the supervisor. The room must be empty, and the guest maybe left the room key by accident. They had other guests due to check in, so A was told to let herself in and service the room as normal. I think things are about to get a bit weird. She stripped and changed the beds, cleaned the bathroom and put out all the coffee, tea and towels, etc. When finished, she did a quick sweep and last scan of the room to make sure she got everything, and noticed the wardrobe door slightly open, so gave it a nudge to close. As she did it quickly, it fully opened to reveal a dead man hanging inside. The poor lass was absolutely traumatised. She couldn't stop thinking how he'd been there all that time, that she'd been casually changing the linen and restocking the tea and coffee. Amazed her supervisors weren't absolutely screwed for allowing her to even enter the room alone, given that they weren't sure whether someone was still in there or not. My God, if I was there changing the room and there was a dead body, one, it would feel like I was in a movie or something, and two, I would be terrified. So Kate says, a baby. Yes, a living, breathing, tiny baby asleep on our hotel bed. But the dear thing almost got me arrested and ruined our holiday. It was around 5:30 p.m. We arrived at our hotel for a 5-day holiday, checked in at reception and were given our room key card. I should mention that the country we were in had Spanish as its first language. I do not speak any Spanish, and the young lady at the reception desk spoke very little English, but there were no problems checking in. We found our room, opened the door and went in to see a tiny baby wrapped in a swaddling cloth asleep in the middle of the bed. At first I thought it was a large doll because it looked just like a beautiful china doll with a little mop of blonde hair and rosy pink cheeks. Its eyes were shut and it was totally still. I went over to it, gently stroked its cheek and realised it was warm and breathing. It was a tiny baby, possibly around 2 months old. When I got over the shock, I picked up the bedside phone and dialed 0 to speak to reception. The conversation went something like this. The lady calling says, "This is Miss Cook from room 127. There's a baby on our bed." The reception lady says, "Baby on the bed? Oh, you want a cot? I'll get a cot for you." "No, this is not our baby. It belongs to someone else." "Oh, you want a cot for a friend's baby?" "No, this baby doesn't belong to us. It shouldn't be in our room. You need to find the baby's mother." "You need mummy for baby?" "Yes, we've just found this baby asleep on our bed. It's not our baby, so you need to find out who's left it in our room." Silence from the reception lady. At this point, the baby begins to stir and makes a little gurgling noise. "You need to find this baby's mother and ask her to come and get her baby right away. It's waking up now." "Me phone baby mummy?" "Yes, is there anyone else that speaks English? This is an emergency." "No people's here. English baby got emergency. Me call doctor." "No, the baby is lost. It needs its mother. You need to find the mother and tell her to come to room 127 and get baby." "Baby list? I call doctor." At this point, the baby awakes fully and starts to cry. "Baby not sick. Baby hungry and needs milk. Mummy has left baby in our room. Mummy has lost her baby. I'm not its mother. I don't know who its mother is. Please can someone come and get the baby?" "Mummy left baby no milk, so baby get list." "Can I speak to the manager? There is a baby lost in our room. We need help urgently." "Emergency help for baby?" "Yes, call the manager. It's an emergency. We've got an abandoned baby that needs feeding right now." "Me call emergency list for baby?" "Yes, call right now. It's urgent." By this time, the baby had started screaming loudly and thrashing its little arms and legs around. I hung up the phone and picked up the baby, patting it on the back and comforting it over my shoulder. Its blanket was damp and there was a wet patch in the centre of the bed. I handed the screaming baby to my husband and asked him to hold it for a minute. I went into the bathroom and thoroughly washed my hands, as I had been travelling for hours and felt unclean. I returned to the room, took the distraught baby from my startled husband and gently put my finger in its mouth. It started sucking my finger vigorously. We decided to take the baby down to reception, so we got our key cards and walked down the corridor to the lift. In the background we could hear sirens wailing, but paid them no attention. As we exited the lift and entered the reception area, I saw a well-dressed young man in his mid-20s standing at the desk. I approached him and asked if he spoke English, and was very relieved when he said he did. I explained to him that we found this baby in our hotel room. It didn't belong to us, and we thought it had been abandoned by its mother. I asked him to explain it to the reception lady. He talked to her in Spanish, and I saw the relieved look on her face when she realised the baby was not dying. I carried the distraught infant to the quiet, cool spot in the reception area and tried to comfort it. I used the little finger in mouth trick again, and it stopped the noise for a few minutes. Meanwhile, my husband, the translator, and the reception lady were deep in conversation. At this point, the hotel's front door swung open. 4 large men in official-looking green uniforms marched in. I noticed guns in their holsters and batons on their belts. I felt quite afraid. 2 of the men noticed me sitting quietly in the corner. They came up to me and abruptly snatched the baby out of my arms. One of the men picked me up, turned me around, and grabbed my arms behind my back and handcuffed me. The 2 other policemen approached the front counter, where my husband and the translator stood in stunned silence as they watched me being handcuffed. Then both of them started talking loudly at once, explaining that there had been a mistake. I should not have been arrested as I was just trying to help a lost baby. Just then another man wearing a suit, carrying a black briefcase, rushed into the hotel, followed by a young girl wearing a cleaning maid's uniform. She had tears streaming down her face. I was still pushed up against the wall, handcuffed. Later, I was told the whole story by a pleasant young man, our translator. It turns out that the baby belonged to the young cleaning maid who had started working at the hotel the week prior. Management were unaware that she had a young baby. Her planned babysitter had bailed at the last minute, so fearful of losing her job, she brought her baby to work. She'd fed her bub and then settled her down to sleep in what she thought was an unoccupied hotel room. She'd then started her cleaning rounds. The thing is, being new and unfamiliar with a large hotel, she was disoriented and mistakenly thought she left her baby in room 227 on the floor above our room. When she went to check in on her bub 30 minutes later and found the room empty, she panicked. She was scared of the hotel manager, her boss, and didn't want her to lose her job, so she called her sister, who called the police. The maid met the police when they arrived in the hotel car park. The suited man turned out to be a doctor who had been called by the reception lady to attend to a sick English baby. He took the baby from the policeman's arms and handed it to the relieved mother, who was still crying copiously. Then the translator and my husband came over to where I was still handcuffed and demanded that I be released. Shortly after this, the hotel manager arrived and was briefed by the police, the reception lady, and the translator. The young maid was sitting in the corner, breastfeeding her baby, still crying. As a result of this, the manager offered us upgraded accommodation and free meals and drinks for the duration of our stay. He was incredibly apologetic. I think I also received an apology from the burly police officer who cuffed me, although I couldn't understand what he said. I was most concerned for the young cleaning maid. She looked to be in her late teens and cried and hugged her baby in the corner for the next hour as we gave our statements to the police and sorted things out. I spoke to the manager and asked him not to sack the cleaning maid and to understand that she was just trying to do her best to support her baby. He listened to me stony-faced and made no comment. The following day, we were asked to go to the local police station to sign our witness statements. We were taken there by the hotel chauffeur, who spoke good English and explained to us what the police were asking us to sign. It was a statement detailing what had happened, stating that we did not want any further action to be taken. On the way back, I asked the chauffeur to take us to a shop that sold baby items. I bought some booties, a pink jacket, a pretty baby blanket. I had them gift wrapped. The following evening, I asked the new reception man, who spoke quite good English, if the cleaning maid was on duty, and I said I wanted to speak to her. The young girl appeared to be at the desk 5 minutes later and would not make eye contact with me and still appeared very upset. Her eyes were red and I thought she'd been crying. She looked so young and vulnerable. I gave her the parcel and an envelope which contained a wad of cash, equivalent to 100 Australian dollars. I asked the reception man to translate and tell her that I was not angry with her and I was sure she was a good mum and wanted her to accept the gift for her baby. I was told the hotel manager had promised me he would not sack her and she would keep her job. On the back of the envelope, I had written my name, phone number and email address. I asked the reception man to translate to her, "Here are my contact details. Please call me if you have any trouble or need help." She opened the present and when she saw the baby gifts, she broke down into a huge grin. I motioned for her to open the envelope. When she saw the wad of cash, I thought she was going to faint. Her gratitude enveloped me, and I could still see her smile to this day. But I never heard from her again. Later, the reception man told me the money I gave her was far more than she would earn for 2 months of cleaning work. I was absolutely shocked and wish I'd given her far more, because that was just the cost of one day's meals and drinks for my husband and me, and we had been given 5 days for free. I learnt a lot about inequality that day. So this was the weirdest thing I ever found in a hotel room, and it almost got me arrested. So Wraith Keel says, this is a great story. I'm so glad you were generous to her. So Kate has a big response here saying, thank you for your kind words, but in hindsight, I was not generous at all. When I did the sums, I actually felt ashamed about my lack of understanding about how the economics of other countries work. Here in Australia, we would usually pay around 20 Australian dollars for a decent meal in a restaurant, and a drink of beer or wine costs about $5 to $8. So for people to eat and drink on holiday for one day is around $100. I gave her the equivalent of $100 Australian in cash, which was only one day's food and drink for us. But as a result of that incident, we were given food and drink for 5 days, which saved me around $500 to $600 that we had intended to spend, we budgeted for, and we could afford. When I was told that the $100 was more than she would earn for 2 months of cleaning, I was shocked. I had no idea the wages were so low. Imagine if I had given her $500, which is the money we saved as a result of the hotel trying to placate us. This would have been her whole income for 10 months. She could have spent 10 months caring and breastfeeding her baby before having to look for work again. So I actually benefited financially from that incident. And she could have lost her job, which she appeared to be absolutely desperate for. So in hindsight, I was not generous at all, but I did the best I could at the time, in the situation I found myself in, to the best of my knowledge. For that, I am proud of myself, but I don't agree that I was generous. Thank you for your comments. Well, that's a really interesting story. I don't know how I'd react if I found a baby, but I think she's beating herself up a bit because she didn't know how much that maid was earning until afterwards. She just wanted to be nice and give her some money because she felt bad about the situation. I think anyone would feel a bit bad about that situation. She did what she could. I mean, if she feels bad, she could always try and get in contact and try and send a bit more money later down the line, but at the end of the day, you did what you thought was right. That's all you can do, really. So yeah, if you enjoyed listening to me read that story, please press that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.